Being told by our producer Josh that our guest is ready and we're ready to rock and roll. So I'm being joined by Bryan Van Kley, the owner of the Win magazine. Bryan, you've presented the Hodge Trophy over the years. First off, good morning. Thank you so much for coming on. How are you, Bryan?
Good morning, guys. Thanks. It's a privilege to be on. We're extremely excited about the Hodge Trophy and excited to do it on Flow this morning.
Wonderful. And I want to get your perspective on a couple things before the big announcement. One, in your memory of the Hodge Trophy, do you remember a race, a competition, a vote that was quite like this one?
I don't ever. There has not been one that's been this heated and drama filled. As you guys know, the 2021 Dan Hodge Trophy race was extremely tight, extremely controversial, with passionate opinions on both sides between Gable Stevenson and Spencer Lee. We did end up doing a co-winner that year because our first place ballot vote came back tied. But I would say where that year was different than this year, guys, is I think because the Wyatt Hendrickson upset over Gable Stevenson was a surprise to most people. Wyatt was on our contender list, obviously coming into the NCAA championships, but people would not have considered him a front runner in front of Carter, in front of Mitchell Messenbrink, or in front of Gable. And I even wrote in our early pre-NCAA issue about nationals and about the Hodge Trophy. I just really had a sense this was going to be both a drama-filled nationals as well as a drama-filled and intense Dan Hodge Trophy race to the end. And I wrote some about it in that article. But long answer to your short question, Christian, there hasn't ever been one quite like this, where we've seen so much online publicity and debate and debate among the national wrestling community. And just like there is with the Heisman Trophy, obviously that's a great sign for the sport of wrestling. It's great for the award. And most importantly, it's great for these three very worthy recipients who, I think in many, many, many years, if any of the three of them, if you would have put them up against the field, if you would have put their stats up against the field, these bonus point percentages and the way they went about their business as dominant NCAA champions from start to finish, from the beginning of the year to the end, was extremely impressive.
Now, there was a lot of, as soon as NCAAs ended, the camps started forming, right? And then there became a focus on the criteria, and the criteria have been amended since 2022 from 7 down to 4. How do you want people to look at voters or expect voters to interpret the criteria? Is it left sort of broad and it sort of up to their interpretation? Are the 4 categories to be equally weighted? I just kind of want your perspective on how voters and the fans should interpret the 4 criteria.
That's a fantastic question, Christian, and I'm glad you asked it on air. Going back to the award's namesake, Dan Hodge, he was the type of wrestler that when Hodge was in the building, he left no doubt who the best wrestler in the building was, who the best wrestler in the weight class was, based on his level of domination. And you guys, I know, have talked about the stats. People can go back and look at the stats, but Dan Hodge was a feared competitor to wrestle on the mat because of the results, because of the pinning, because of just his strength and his ability to score points. So since the very beginning, domination, pinning, and scoring points has always been the focus of this award. At the end of most every season, there are 2 to 3 to 5 guys, 6 guys that will finish the year undefeated who were dominant at times. But we really, over the last few years, as our committee has grown each year, adding a Dan Hodge Trophy recipient to the list, and continuing to get media feedback. Christian, I know you and I, a number of different times over the years, have had communications back and forth in regards to the criteria, how people should view it, what those criteria should be, and how it should be most simple for our Dan Hodge Trophy voting committee to cast their ballot each year, and also for the fans to digest and vote. We have really focused in on domination, Pins, as you mentioned, was one of the formal criteria until a few years back. Unfortunately, we're seeing that across the board in the sport, that less and less of these top guys pin anymore. And I think with the most recent rule changes of increasing the points for near falls and takedowns, that has only added to the decrease in pinning. So we really, when we went from 7 criteria to 4, wanted to put the emphasis on domination, and we wanted to clarify what domination looked like, which is why we have really from start to finish, once the criteria were clarified and simplified, published bonus point percentage all the way through, because that way you can see, if a guy wrestles 30 matches and he's got a 90% bonus point percentage, people can step back away from that stat and say, are you mean to tell me only 3 guys out of 30 for the year kept this guy from scoring bonus points? So I think pinning is still super, super important to a lot of people that vote. And that's wrapped into that second criteria of dominance bonus point percentage. So first and foremost is record. Obviously, most every year there's going to be a guy that finished the season undefeated and was very dominant. Second being dominance bonus point percentage. And then third adds in a level of subjectivity, but obviously it's a very important one, guys, and that's quality of competition. You can have some guys obviously at a weaker weight class that may have a quite a bit higher or a slightly higher bonus point percentage, or they may have gotten more pins or more techs, etc. So adding in really strength of schedule. I was listening to some of you guys' conversation here a few minutes ago, obviously with your conversation with your son, starting to look at really the stats before our Hodge Trophy Committee members vote. We really encourage them to look at strength of schedule, look at who they wrestled, who they beat, not just in the NCAA tournament when people remember it the most, but all the way back to November. Hodge really left that legacy on the sport as being the guy that you didn't leave the building when he wrestled, because it was going to be very clear he was at a level far above the opponents in his weight class. So we have always really focused on those level of things, and that's been the primary focus of the criteria and how we've continued to remind and try to encourage our Hodge Trophy Committee members to vote. And then the final one, guys, sportsmanship is just one of those things you'd love it each and every year if the Dan Hodge Trophy winner as the Heisman Trophy of wrestling is an excellent representative of the sport of wrestling and somebody that you would want your sons and daughters to have as a hero and a role model. So those are the 4 criteria. As we've done since the beginning of the award, we continue to remind people it's a single season award, just like the Heisman Trophy. You're not leading the Heisman race at the start of the year because you had 22 touchdowns as a quarterback the previous year. So the previous year's stats, we clarified that in the criteria, but we've always stressed to people that the Hodge is primarily based on single season statistics. So it's been very, very interesting to hear, obviously, all the online debate. I think the last thing I would add, Christian, to that question that you asked that is really interesting as we get to obviously here in a moment on who won the Hodge is, as you've talked about a lot online, which we appreciate, Christian, your transparency in regards to your Hodge vote, who you think should win the Hodge and how you evaluate those criteria is your opinion, and that affected your vote. How that affects TJ Jaworski's vote as our first Hodge winner, how that affects Jordan Burroughs' vote, how that affects Jake Herbert's vote, how that affects other media members' votes. We send out the ballot to those people. The criteria are always listed. We remind them it's a single season award. We list as many stats as possible on that ballot. But at the end of the day, who Cale Sanderson votes for, who Les Gutches votes for, who Ben Askren votes for when they submit their ballot is going to be, in their mind, what they think it should mean to be a Dan Hodge Trophy winner, and based on what the award stands for and what it's always meant to them. So I think that's what makes this process great and healthy is, we have about 55 people submitting votes based on who they should win it. And then you have a robust fan vote from the national wrestling community with their votes. And then we get to the ultimate winner.
Well, I have no more questions. I can wait no longer, Bryan. I just want to kick it to you, however you want to do it. Who is the winner of the 2025 Hodge Trophy?
Thanks, guys. So for the second closest race in the 31-year history of the Dan Hodge Trophy, the 2025 Win Magazine Culture House Dan Hodge Trophy, presented every year by our awesome sponsor, ASICS Wrestling, is Wyatt Hendrickson from Oklahoma State.
Wow.
He had 30 first-place votes. Congratulations to Wyatt. He had 30 first-place votes. Carter Sirachi had 26, and Mitchell Messenbrink had 3.
Wow. So really the fan vote played a huge role in that, because it was pretty close up to the very end, and then the fan vote wound up swinging it for Wyatt. That is unbelievable.
It was really unbelievable, and I think probably very symbolic of what we saw as an incredible, unbelievable collegiate season and an unbelievable end to it. It was just really interesting over the few days last week as votes were coming in from the Hodge Trophy voting committee and the fan vote guys, just to see how close they were all the way through. And as you said, the Hodge Trophy, both fan vote and voting committee, the fans really put Wyatt over the top. He ended up with just over 16,000 votes.
Wow.
16,001 verified votes. And Starachi ended up with 13,108. Mitchell Messenbrink with just under 4,000. So about 33,000 votes, one per email, verified votes through our system. And Wyatt's additional 3,000 or 3,900 over Carter made a big difference and got him some additional votes. And you ended up with the 30-26 final vote tally.
Now I'm a little jealous of your position. Are you able to you're getting the votes in real time? You're like, oh, okay, Carter's up 3 and then a big swing. Was it kind of like that?
It was kind of like that. And it is super fun and super interesting to see the votes come in, to see different people's opinions and perspectives, which really, back to the article that I wrote in our early March issue, I'd certainly, appreciate and love for people to check it out. I wrote about that, Christian, because I think that's one thing that people forget. This isn't a popularity contest. This isn't, you hear all this stuff online, right? This isn't a career award. Different people have definitions of what best wrestler means. This goes to the most dominant collegiate wrestler that year, as voted on by this committee, that we feel very, very strongly about in regards to their opinions. So it's really important to remember that, like I said, people like Kyle Dake, I listened to the first part of your show. Kyle did an amazing job. Kyle has an opinion on what the Dan Hodge Trophy stands for and what it should take to win it. And he votes for who he thinks should best get it every year, as does every person of that 50 to 55 person committee. So it's really a process we're very, very proud of. We believe in, we feel like we're going to get the right winner every year. By the way, the process is structured. And back to your point, Christian, yes, seeing those votes come in and seeing who Spencer Lee voted for or Gable Stevenson voted for, I will remind viewers, that each of those winners gets 1 vote for each year they won the Dan Hodge Trophy. So Ben Askren got 2 votes, Spencer Lee got 2 votes, Gable Stevenson got 2 votes, Cale got 3 votes. So seeing the tallies accumulate as they come in for all 3 guys was really fun.
Well, unbelievable. And Wyatt, obviously an incredibly deserving winner, and was really the story out of what was, as you described it, an unbelievable and a shocking NCAA tournament from start to finish. So what is next for the Hodge Trophy? Are you gonna give it to him at a football game or something cool like that? Is he gonna fly in on a jet or a helicopter?
So there's typically two presentation points. One internal, a bit more internal, if you will, with the individual school's respective wrestling community at their spring banquet. It's looking like Oklahoma State's is going to be this week, Thursday. So that's quickly approaching us. If that's when it will be, obviously we will be down there to make the official presentation to Wyatt then. And then, as you alluded to, Christian, we always do it a second time publicly in front of the school's larger athletic community at a fall home football game, which is always a ton of fun, and it's just great for the student athlete, for wrestling to get that standing ovation. Last year it was at the Penn State whiteout game against Washington. Last year's national runner-up in front of 111,000 people, or however many crazy Nittany Lion fans in white they pack into that building. But to see that athlete get a standing ovation in front of 111,000 people and to hold the Hodge, above their head and get duly recognized for a sport like ours that doesn't oftentimes get the pats on the back and the recognition that basketball and football get is a pretty awesome thing.
Awesome indeed. Bryan, we are, I can't tell you how thankful I am, how grateful I am that you were able to come on here and present and announce the winner. What an incredible college season, and what an incredible winner. Anything else before we let you go, Bryan?
Flo, I just really appreciate you guys as a staff. I know you guys talk about it a lot. You love it. Christian, you've told me how many times you value you guys' part in the process. We just appreciate you guys' coverage of it, appreciate you guys' coverage of wrestling, and just thank everybody for engaging in the Dan Hodge Trophy voting process, and appreciate all the fans that turned out on our website to vote this week.
We'll certainly appreciate you, Bryan, and Win Magazine, your staff there. We'll be seeing you soon. It's freestyle season, Bryan, so I'm sure we'll be seeing you at the Open and Trials and Final X and everywhere in between.
A new chapter starts. Thanks,
right.
guys.
Thank you, Bryan. Have a great day. So there you have it. Hodge Trophy winner 2025, Wyatt Hendrickson. Unbelievable. I mean, a buzzer beater, just like his NCAA finals victory.
What did he say the final votes were again?
30-26.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And the fan vote's worth 5.
5.
Yeah. No one, this is definitely someone who came from like a dark horse to win. Like, he was not, everyone would just assumed it would be Stevenson if it was going to be a heavyweight.
Yes.
And then all that changed in just the final period of that match.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
He went from not winning the NCAAs to being the Hodge Trophy winner.
Yeah.
You got to wonder if there's some Penn State fans kicking themselves for voting for Mitchell instead of Carter in this.
Split the vote.
Well, that obviously did it.
If Carter got all of Mitchell's votes, he would have won.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, they talk about being a victim of your success.
Yeah.
Or this happened in at the Heisman with two Miami. It was like Willis McGahee and I think Ken Dorsey was the quarterback's name. They were 2 of the 3 or 4, and they basically split.
Yeah.
And then I forget who won.
And you can't, it's not like one of them could just like step down and say, I'm no longer running for.
Yeah, I yield my Hodge candidate.
Yeah. I donate all of them to this guy.
Yeah.
Can't do
Yeah.
that.
But I mean, it is kind of it was one for me where like you kind of you feel a little icky no matter which way.
No matter what,
you throw your support. Like, Caleb made me feel really like I messed it. You know what? It worked out how it worked out. But if I had voted for Wyatt and Carter had won, I'd be like, man, Wyatt. What else could Wyatt have done to win the Hodge? What else could Carter Starachi have done? But I love that there was one winner, right? And they went with. And another thing that Bryan also didn't bring up with the Spencer Gable Co-Hodge year, it was like those seasons were so short. Like you didn't get the glut of data, I think, to really make an informed decision. Whereas this year, both these guys wrestled their seasons, an unbelievable conclusion to an unbelievable year.
Good Hodge Cowboy.
Good Hodge Cowboy. Wow, you too.
Jinx.
Oh man, that's so awesome. Oh man, how incredible! What a great year. It feels like. Does it now feel like the NCAA season is now officially over? It feels like this is it.
Yeah.
This was like the last thing, and now it's like everything else is about what happens next year.
Yeah.
Like it's like this is the final bow on the NCAA season. It's the Hodge Trophy winner. It's the coolest.
Yeah.
It's the coolest award in wrestling, right? I love it, and
One.
yeah, it is the #1 award, and so. I don't know. It's definitely a dream for me to have it announced on this show. And I don't know if there's anything else to say other than congratulations to Wyatt and the Oklahoma State fans that vigorously supported him and voted for him. It's interesting because a lot of people, I got texts, Carter's going to win. All the Penn State votes are going to be consolidated. For every Penn State vote there's a non-Penn State. There's 25 total ballots, and I think Penn State has. If you look at people affiliated or at Penn State, it's not over half of that. So
I wonder
David Taylor voting for Wyatt.
Yeah, and there's 2, and he has 2.
Yeah.
if Kale has 3, how does he split them up? Because he can't even do it evenly to his guys.
Wait, that's kind of crazy. David Taylor is the swing for that because it's a 4-point swing.
Yeah,
All goes back to the singlet pull.
good swing, Cowboy.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anyways, wow, what a show. My mind's just kind of spinning. I'm thinking about like, wow, Dake and his future, what he's gonna do. I'm thinking about this. So, it is 11:35.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say good show, Cowboy. Congrats to Wyatt. Congrats to Carter. Congrats to Mitchell, but especially Wyatt for bringing it home, winning the Hodge Trophy. We will be back on Thursday. This show's got a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
We're gonna try our darndest to top it. How about that? How's that for a goal? Ambition.
Congrats to the show.
Congrats to the show. Thanks to Josh Skurnick, our producer, to Tyler, Spay, JD, Kyle Dake, Brian Van Kley, and all of you for listening. Thank you so much. See you next Thursday. Have a great Monday. Goodbye.